Today, we're going to explore a really simple story. It's about something most of us do without even a second thought, just taking a morning walk. But as we're about to find out, it's usually in these super ordinary moments that we find the most extraordinary lessons.
So let me start with a question for you. Have you ever felt tired, but not in your body? I'm talking about that deep mental fatigue, where every day just feels kind of heavy. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then I think you're really going to connect with the story we're exploring today.
All right, so our story begins with a young man named Daniel. Now, Daniel wasn't overwhelmed with work in the usual sense, but he felt completely and utterly drained. It was this mental exhaustion, really, born from the feeling that every single day was just a carbon copy of the last.
His routine had become this monotonous loop. You know the drill. He'd wake up, first thing he does is check his phone, then he'd move to his computer to work, and before he knew it, bam, the day was over. Just a blur of screens and tasks, without anything really meaningful to hold on to.
But then, one evening, something shifted. Right in the middle of that feeling of sameness, this little thought sparked a change. And this is really the turning point of our story, where just one simple decision starts to unravel that feeling of being stuck. And this was the thought that started it all. Seriously, nothing grand or dramatic. Just this quiet realization, you know what? Maybe I need a small change in my routine. Its power is really in its simplicity, right? It's a thought any one of us could have.
So, what was this small change? Well, he decided that the next morning he would simply wake up a little bit earlier and go for a walk. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, just a walk.
So the next morning, Daniel actually followed through. And as he stepped outside, he started to experience the world in a way he hadn't in a very long time. He was about to discover everything he'd been overlooking.
Now, waking up at 6 was definitely tough, but he pushed through it. The moment he stepped outside, he noticed the fresh air, and as he started walking, he was just struck by how quiet the city was at that hour.
Let's just pause on that first sensation for a second. The air. It felt fresh. What a huge contrast to the stale air of his apartment. It was calm, it was peaceful. It was really the first sign that he was stepping into a totally different kind of experience. And then he noticed the light. The world it looked different in the early morning. It wasn't that harsh light of midday, and it wasn't the artificial light from his screens. The light was softer. The sounds were quieter, and even the trees seemed more beautiful. And then a sound came through. As he walked, he heard birds singing. It was this gentle, really relaxing sound that just cut through the silence. It wasn't just noise, it was a melody he realized he hadn't truly listened to in ages.
And this led to a pretty surprising question in his mind. Had the birds just stopped singing all this time? Well, of course not. They were always there. Had he simply been too busy, too distracted to even notice?
So Daniel's walk eventually led him to a small park. And it's right here, sitting on a simple wooden bench, that all of these little observations start to come together into this profound moment of clarity and peace. He just sat there and looked around. And what did he see? Nothing extraordinary at all. A man reading a paper, a woman doing some stretches, a little kid laughing. It was a perfectly simple, totally ordinary scene. But right in the middle of this very ordinary scene, Daniel felt something extraordinary. He took a deep breath, and for the first time in what felt like forever, his mind felt completely calm. That mental fatigue, it was just gone, replaced by this quiet sense of peace. In that one moment, He understood something really fundamental. He had been rushing through his own life. Every day was just a blur of thinking about work and tasks and what's next. He'd completely forgotten how to simply stop and be in the present moment. So, Daniel's revelation, that's really the core message of this whole story. It teaches us something universal about the power of just noticing and where genuine happiness can truly be found. You know, we so often chase happiness in these big achievements. A new job, a huge trip, some special event. But what Daniel learned is that true peace, it's often found in the simple things. A quiet walk, the sound of birds, the feeling of fresh air on your face. And this right here reveals the central theme. The issue isn't that beautiful, peaceful moments are rare. They're all around us, all the time. The real problem is our own speed. We're just moving too fast, our minds are too cluttered, and we completely fail to notice them. So Daniel decided to make this morning walk a new routine, but not as another task to check off a list. No, it became a practice in slowing down, taking a deep breath, truly looking around, and just appreciating the small, simple things that make up our lives. And that brings us to the end. You see, Daniel's story isn't just about him. It's a reminder for all of us. So I'll leave you with this to think about. After a long day of work and tasks and staring at screens, what small, simple moment will you make a point to notice today?